Hello, everybody. It's Lenny Murphy with another edition of the CEO series of interviews. Thanks for taking time out of your day to listen to myself and my guest talk about cool and interesting stuff. And I promise you it is going to be cool and interesting. So with that promise out of the way and setting our expectations very high for the rest of the interview, want to introduce you to Yana Welinder, the head of AI at Amplitude and formerly CEO and co-founder of Craftful. So, Yana, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. Super excited to be here.
Well, let's see if you think that when we're done. But it's good to have you as well. I missed your talk at IX North America last year, but I heard nothing but good stuff, and I think you've had quite a ride since then with the that presentation, and then the acquisition with Amplitude. So looking forward to kind of diving in. But why don't you tell us your origin story?
Yeah, absolutely. So before starting Craftful, and maybe just to kind of set the stage, Craftful was essentially an AI solution for product teams. It took everything from taking in all the customer feedback from every possible source, so support tickets, call transcripts, survey data, user interviews. We had our own AI interview process, kind of an AI moderated process, in pulling that through the entire product development process. So getting insights, then turning those insights, using AI to turn those insights into user stories, and with acceptance criteria that went to Jira and Linear. There was sort of AI road mapping in between, and really took that whole kind of end-to-end product development journey, powered that with large language models. So that's kind of what we built. We grew 0 to 60,000 product teams in 2 years.
Wow.
Which is sort of like a wild ride, or beyond 60,000 when we ultimately sold to Amplitude. So was definitely had a fast scaling problems ourselves, where we had to use our product just to be able to listen to all of our users and customers giving us feedback on the product. My kind of how I came into that space is I've been a product manager and ultimately product leader at various tech companies, everything from being PM number 2 at a fast growing unicorn to ultimately leading product teams with where we had millions of users use our products, our multiple products. And so like the challenge of listening to users at scale has been there throughout my product journey. So ultimately, when I got my hands on large language models, that's the very first problem I tried to solve. And that's what I ended up doing at Craftful.
That's very cool. That I love the stories of, I guess it's core to every entrepreneur story to an extent, right? Here's a problem that I am intimately familiar with or have identified, and how do I fix that problem, right? What can I do? And I think especially in the world of AI, that allows us that focus. You don't have to tackle a big vertical, right? Like we're going to fix healthcare, but a fundamental important component within any business, which is product development, and how to optimize the product so it actually launches and sells and does those things. That's very cool.
And I think that the fundamental piece of talking to users and customers is the most fundamental piece, yet it gets so forgotten in the product development process. And that always struck me working in product, was just how critical it is and how underutilized it is in the process, despite the fact there's oftentimes you have just so many customers giving you feedback, and that all gets lost in the process. Just mind-blowing to me.
Yeah, well, and the efficiency of the kind of process and throughput, right, from early stage ideation through all the way through concept testing, and it's convoluted, complex, expensive. Let's be frank, a pain in the ass, right? As you're testing, various combinations of features and benefits, and so to leverage the existing information to help I assume this is the
Yes.
part of it, is
Yeah.
you're
Exactly. Yeah.
shortcutting that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Still doesn't really remove the need that you need to test and validate at some point,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
from a process workflow standpoint, you integrated that into a seamless process.
Yeah, exactly. And that's that was such a no-brainer to use AI in that
Sure.
way, because I think particularly early on there was kind of just a lot of concern around like all the AI solutions. There's so many AI solutions, like which ones are actually like useful and which ones are kind of just like folks trying to think about like how do I, this AI wave is coming, I need to do something with it. And this was just one where it was so clearly immediately beneficial to every team using it. They had a sea of information, and then being able to like make sense of that sea was just so immediately powerful.
Yeah. Well, obviously, since you went into hyperscale mode, so the you call it the oh crap scenario, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh crap, is it going to go well, or is like did you ever see the commercial? I think it was a FedEx commercial where somebody launched their business and they see the orders start coming in, and then all of a sudden it's thousands, and they're all like, "Oh, what do we do?" So
yeah.
It's all shared challenges.
Our moment like that was actually, interestingly, I mean, we had a few of those. We early on we launched, and then our product broke under the volume of requests. And so the way it broke was all the API rate limits. And so I had to kind of like reach out to all these different companies, some of which I literally was just like trying to figure out how do I get to the founders and the founder CEOs to do this fast. Like, I need this to happen in an hour. It cannot be like days. That was the first one. And then the second piece, shortly after that, we fixed that. Shortly after that was that we went globally immediately, because you can do that with large language models, right? They can analyze feedback in any language. And so suddenly we were analyzing feedback in Japanese, in Korean, in German, and we were getting all of these like very local requests from those folks suddenly, where we hadn't, like, normally you sort of you launch, and then you maybe like you're in the US and maybe in Canada, and then you kind of start entering countries and think about like what's all the things that come with that, like, and tax filings and all that. We kind of just like went there overnight everywhere, which is sort of that was our big second oh shit moment.
Yeah, you got it. Now, was that, so we found you for to speak at IX via Product Hunt. So was that part of that oh shit moment when you went global, was being picked up at Product Hunt?
Yeah, definitely. I think we had two main distribution channels. One was Product Hunt, and the other was Twitter X. And I would say most of our growth came from Twitter X, and some amount came from Product Hunt. And there that was sort of just, it snowballed from Twitter X, which is where we saw that actually we didn't need to talk about our product. We just needed to talk about things that is interesting to product builders generally, and then they would click through, and because the value prop was so clear, they would sign up. That was most of our growth, and interestingly, as a result, I ended up getting a lot of our initial customer feedback in my Twitter DMs. So then I had to kind of figure out, that's not connected to wasn't connected to Craftful. So how do I integrate user feedback into our development process, which is like its own can of worms.
So did you? Well, I guess at that point it would have been Elon, but since you were trying to get hold of CEOs, I was thinking about that. I'm like, hey, just tweeted at Jack or Elon, hey, help me.
Help me, no, that there we ended up with a completely different solution. But yes, that would have been sort of trying to ping Elon and try to get him to like set up some sort of special API for me.
He seems responsive.
Yes.
The total aside, it was just funny since you mentioned it. I saw a thing last week. Somebody posted, my mom says I need to get in touch with Elon, and then he popped in. He's like, what can I do for your mom? And it was just like, that's just love it. This is cool. Wonderful world of accessibility. Anyway, so you went you launched, success, you're going, wow, this is awesome. Did you build the business from the get-go thinking that you would you would be acquired, or were you thinking, no, we're gonna go
IPO.
it alone?
Yeah, we're gonna
IPO?
go. We're gonna go all the way. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah, definitely not looking to get acquired. At some point, fairly early on, actually, we started getting acquisition inbound interest.
Sure.
And started exploring that, and sort of just had to make a decision. Do I do that, right? Because I'm a solo founder. I don't have I have very limited bandwidth. How much time do I have to explore this?
Did you raise capital?
Yes, yeah, I raised 3 rounds. So similarly, I guess similar to going out and raising capital. That's another moment where you kind of have to, in some sense, step away from the business, step away from product, and I could not do that. That was always a big challenge. It was similar in acquisition conversations. It was sort of how do I do this? So very early on, got multiple inbound interests. Ended up exploring that in a very time boxed way. So I was sort of if we can get to start to finish in 30 days, we'll do it. With the right partner. And I should say, back then we were exploring a very different solution, which is to have Craftful be a standalone company with another company kind of helping us primarily with enterprise sales and go to market, because we were very product led, and so having someone else do the sales motion was quite appealing, while we could kind of stay product led and just focus on the product. And so I ran that, and I realized, okay, 30 days is not enough to run a full acquisition process. It's not going to go. And then went back and was back to IPO as the end goal, and let's keep going. And then we started getting more inbound interest, and then I explored it a second time, and in that process ended up structuring it slightly differently. Instead of time boxing it to 30 days, I time boxed it in terms of how much of my time, because in the first round, I ended up speaking to 25 companies, had 10 interested players at one point. So it's a lot. It was very, very time consuming. Second time around, just thinking through how can I make this be less time consuming, so that I can do both things, right? Run my company and run the acquisition process. And I think conceptually was always kind of mostly thinking about if I can find the right fit that can scale us and take us to the next level in ways that we skip a few steps, then it would make sense. And if I'm not skipping a few steps, we will keep going. And so that was, so it's kind of to answer your question, no, absolutely not. It was very opportunistic, and ended up being a great opportunity, great partnership, great partnering with a great company that is leapfrogging us in scaling our product to a place that we couldn't have done alone this quickly. But definitely not the plan.
But and as part of if I understand correctly, the shift within Amplitude is that you are now part of an ecosystem rather than a standalone, right? It's a broader category. It's not just obviously larger companies, sales resources, arbitrage, profitability, all those great things, right, that come in. But the enhancement of where Craftful as a product line fits in a broader suite of solutions and addresses even more business issues. Is that right?
Yes, that's absolutely right. Right. So our ability to analyze qualitative data in a very unique way. We developed this proprietary hallucination detection process, and just a way to analyze data in a way that isn't available on them. We were the only player on the market that did that in a very unique way. But then being able to plug that in with Amplitude's quant data analysis and go from what are users telling us to what are users doing in the product? What are those users doing in the product in a native way? That's being able to answer questions deeply from that perspective, because sometimes people say one thing and they do something else. And
Yep.
sometimes people, when you're just looking at what people are doing, you don't know anything about their intent, right? So being able to paint that full picture is very powerful. And so that's why it was just such a great partnership.
And that's great. Now, before we hit record, I had used the analogy of the 1 + 1 = 3, and but you offered a better analogy that you have within Amplitude. So
yes, so within Amplitude we say 1 + 1 = 11, and so I think this is definitely 11 in terms of what we can bring our joint customers.
Which makes total sense for a company named Amplitude, with the Spinal Tap analogy, the amp turning to 11. Anyway, so the silly movie, but that was fun. All right, so hell of a ride. I mean, traditionally, like the rocket ship, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and now you're, part of a larger company. It's growth mode. What were some lessons that you learned through that process, particularly as you became the belle of the ball, right? People were chasing you, and here, we want to give you money. Anything that you could share with other early stage CEOs, other than what you already shared of, like, this is time consuming. This is not something that you enter into lightly, and it's not, no matter what, it's not on your terms. So these,
yeah.
What else? What other things that you learned of, like, wow, I never thought I'd have to deal with this?
Yeah, I mean, I learned so much. I feel like that was just looking at my founder journey. There's like been pivotal moments where I had just like condensed learning moments, and the M&A process was certainly that. I learned that inbound interest is huge. There's the saying that you don't sell a company. Like companies are bought, not sold. I guess is the saying, and that's so true. If you have inbound interest, you can end up in a much better position than you could if you proactively try to sell. Even if then of course it's going to depend on all the other factors, like how well is the business doing, what is the M&A market right now, like all those pieces. That's one piece. Then I learned a lot around just like finding the right partner. I talked about some of that in terms of just like how, like, strategic fit with the product. But then another piece is this like an experienced acquirer? An experienced acquirer turn out is a huge factor for how fast you're able to sell, which in turn is really important for whether you're able to sell at all, because speed is so critical in M&A, and if you can't get to speed, most deals fail. And so you really just want to move fast, and then you need someone who's done this before and know what they're doing. Multiple of the companies I was talking to were not that, and it was so clear in the process, and that, like, if I would have bet on those, it probably would have gone poorly. I would say then finding the company with like leaders at the very top that you culturally align well with is really, really important. And that's so hard to do, because oftentimes you have very little interaction with the founder, CEO, when, like, particularly for the big companies, when you're being sold, there's usually someone else underneath that you're doing most of your talking with. And if it's a big company, there's probably, like, the layers are big company type layers, and you're not going to have cultural alignment with those folks as a start, like an early stage company. You're just in completely different worlds and completely different universes, right? And so, like, being able to, when you have those touch points with the founders, to get a sense for, like, is this a good cultural fit or not? That's so important. And I think I learned that more now, being on the inside of the company. If you found the right fit, which I think we did with Amplitude, it's so much better than if you were kind of just like pushing against something that doesn't align well. I mean, I could go on and on. so many learnings.
Yeah, well, and those are big ones, right? I mean, I do a fair amount of M&A work as well, in the kind of a matchmaking. And what I have learned over the years is, one, you want to get to the no as fast as you can, so
Yes.
nobody wastes any time. And regardless of anything else, if that cultural alignment is not there, and being fully transparent on that up front, then the odds of successful integration. So you may get the deal done. So, but then everything falls apart on the back end. And I've just seen that happen so many times with post acquisition, that people realize, it's like dating, right? It's, oh, I really like this person, but this kind of annoys me. So you're not going to get married to somebody necessarily when the annoyance factor outweighs the
Yes, yeah, exactly. No, that is such a great analogy, and it is like there in by definition, like everyone else in the big org are gonna annoy you coming from a startup.
Sure. Yes.
And so you have to kind of like tell apart from like that and like, but do you have alignment with the top, like with the leadership? That's just sort of interesting,
Yeah, is that soul connection, right? For values, considerations, and for anybody who's listening, right? And I'm sure that maybe you've encountered this as well. There are some transactions that are purely financial transactions. They just make sense from a financial standpoint. Private equity's involved, and it's a pure consolidation play, and everybody, you come in and you're going to do an earn out in 6 months, and you make your money and you leave, and that's totally okay. That is a different type of transaction than a growth transaction, which I would classify where you guys are. Where you need to feel good about these folks that you're marrying, right?
That's right.
Because the divorce, there's not a good divorce option in.
Yes, that's right.
So, all right. So that's congratulations, right, on all
Thank you.
That. That's fantastic. Now, obviously, you've been part of this transformation, this AI transformation, early, recognizing the tools, and I agree, like anything qualitative, unstructured data, that was the low-hanging fruit. Well, of course, why would you not do that?
Yes.
So you probably live this more every day, more than I do, being in the weeds. I continue to be amazed by the step changes of capability, and the implications of those capabilities on all things. I mean, the ripple effect is it's a tsunami, right? It's a global tsunami. It's like an asteroid. And I don't think we even comprehend yet the full potential effect of how these technologies transform business processes. Certainly, how they transform insights and analytics. But I mean, procurement. I mean, everything, right?
Everything.
So what's your take on what I think? I can't predict what's going to happen in the next few months. I can maybe see like, oh, we're going to see more change. Robots are coming. But that's what's your take? Where do you
I think. I'm in there, and I've sort of as you point out, I've really been like on this journey, right? I think the first time I built the first version, or tried building the first version of what Craftful ultimately became with the first like GPT model in like early 2020, and then we ultimately like launched our first LLM powered product in 2021, and then we pivoted to like a full-on solution in late 2022. So really, and I say this in that I've just seen how these models were evolving, and then just like started evolving faster, right? And also seeing the process of like building with them, right? Like what did that entail? And I think that one thing that as a result, I have this intuitive sense of like where things are going in the next few months. I can fairly clearly see that, and I can fairly clearly see where it's going to be in the long term. But the things that I find really hard to predict is really the in-between land, like in between short term and very long term.
I get
What
that.
is that going to look like?
Right.
And so, like in the very short term, there's just more AI adoption, and the AI capabilities are going to improve. And the state we're at right now in terms of model improvements, is that they can just solve like all of the going from like GPT 4.1 to GPT 5. It's that you can give the model the really, really, really hard problems, and then they will do better. When you give the model the simple problems, it's not noticeable, like, is there any better? Actually, maybe sometimes be worse, just because you've sort of adjusted for the previous versions of the models. As one example, right? There's other models, other model development going on too, but just as one example. But if you give the GPT-5 model a really, really hard problem, then suddenly it can solve it so much better. So that's going to be what we'll be seeing, is that every single business will be finding their hard problems and giving it to the latest models, and suddenly being able to solve those hard problems and being like, oh wow, that unlocked so much in my business. And we'll be seeing that. We'll be seeing that for the next few months. And then the much longer term is AGI, right? Where AI is doing a whole lot of the work in many the in our space. A lot of the product development, I think, will be end to end done by AI, and I think that the human addition there will be that there will still be both a human drive to, and I know that was actually the talk that you missed. This is what I talked about. But there will be the human drive to build products is just so important to us as humans. That's sort of what sets us apart from other species, is that we love creating things and seeing others use the things we created. That humans will continue doing that because they love to do it. And other humans will continue value humans having created that, and see in kind of having these potentially like artisanal products that will be like these hyper efficient AI products that are end to end, just built by AI, will be great. Kind of like the you can think of that as maybe like the fast food of products, but not the bad connotation of fast food. But then there will also be these like artisanal products, and there will be value for that, and there's reasons that will exist. I think that's the long term. And then how do we get from like the few months out to that? I think that's the more ambiguous. I can have theories about that, but I don't see that as clearly as those two kind of points in time.
I totally get that. I mean, part of my I guess yours as well, right? Is part of my job is to try and see the future, and look at current data and implications, and say, here's how I think this is going to go from a business strategy standpoint. And I can see the kind of the incremental changes where we are now, based primarily just on adoption and expansion of use cases, and that's pretty straightforward. And I see the sci-fi future, right, which I'm also kind of scared of, right? So it's like, this could go either way, right? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, what I described was that's the optimistic view, right? There's the definitely very pessimistic views too. If everything goes really well, I think we will be in that land. But yeah,
I have stopped watching Black Mirror because like I just don't. I can't.
Too real. It's getting too real.
Yes, right. It's like we're not in science fiction land anymore. Like, this is next week. They're laying out, but that in between, the adjustment of that in between, right? And I think that's the challenge. And it's going to be rocky. It is rocky, right? The impact on human capital, the roles. If you're familiar with the grit report that we put out, it's grit time, and I'm going doing the analysis, and I wrote a whole section, and just out of curiosity, so I put in perplexity, which is personally my favorite right now. I really like perplexity because it is just it does what it does really well, and for my use cases, I just like perplexity. Anyway, so just to edit, right? Did I miss anything, misspelling, whatever, and it did all that, and I thought, I'm going to ask, is there anything that I missed, right? from this data, you have this massive data that is in there. Any key insights that I just didn't address? And I wish I had never asked that, because it was like, holy crap, really? And not fluff, right? I mean, it was
Good stuff.
in-depth analysis. It was right on. It was contextually accurate, and it was primarily pulling from verbatims. So right within this data set, and I have mixed feelings about that. I'm like, wow, that's really cool, and oh my god, but what about me? So, and I think that's just where we're grappling at right now across the board. Is that what that human machine interface? The singularity approaches, right? And we're in the middle of or well, not the middle, but certainly in the outer bands of what does that look like, and finding the balance in increasing quality of life for humans, with knowing that maybe, I mean, buggy makers aren't in business anymore, right? Unless you live in Amish territory, right? It's car manufacturers that evolution always has some things left on the side of the road.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, and I think that that's absolutely right. But at the same time, there is just so much opportunity with AI, for technically speaking, for everyone. And so someone being left on the side of the road in the past because they didn't have the right, like the right training or something. Now, suddenly you can leverage AI if you don't have the right training to do certain things that you in the past couldn't. And so now it's more about creativity and adaptability, right? Like if you have those two, you're not going to be left on the side of the road. And so that's interesting, and that is just a very different problem set.
It is. And also just to put perspective, it's not just business. I mean, even socially. So we have I have 5 kids, age 30 to almost 13. Okay, and 3 of them are clustered as teenagers, and it's my 30-year-old. She got a master's degree, et cetera, went down that whole path. In my younger ones, it's a legitimate conversation now of there really is kind of 2 paths for you. One is highly creative, and luckily they are highly creative. The other is highly specialized from a trade standpoint. But a job like mine, like, probably don't want a job like mine because I don't know it's going to exist. So, so there's just this long tail.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. My kids are much younger, so I have a 8-year-old and a 6-month-old.
Okay, congratulations on this.
Thank you. And my 8-year-old was really interesting. I sort of obviously he's had a lot of like AI exposure with from his parents, but one interesting thing, I introduced him to Lovable probably months ago, or maybe up to a year ago, and initially I did it and I tried to kind of teach him how to prompt, but that didn't go anywhere. He was sort of like, the moment he learned that you could do this, you could use this to build, he was all in. But then in terms of like learning how to prompt, he was like, no, don't need that. I can just do it. Okay. I'm like, well, okay, you just go. And so, and then I realized that actually my attempts at teaching him how to prompt was completely irrelevant, because he is prompting in a AI native way that's just completely different, right? So the way he builds games is his thing, and so he will use Lovable with a flow dictation app, like and so he like walked around with his laptop. He got a laptop to build these games, but he's using it in ways that I didn't necessarily predict. And so he walks around with it at home, and he like presses one button, which is like the dictation button, and then he like talks with his laptop. It's like, oh hey, so I was thinking, how about if we build it like, and it's kind of like it's like him talking with a friend, and that's him prompting Lovable. And then he's sort of like, hey, there's a bunch of bugs in this part, like, why don't you fix that? And it's fascinating to see that that process, right? Because that is the future. That is probably how we're going to be interacting with AI much more in a much more fluid way. It's not going to be so structured. Models are getting better and better. And yeah, it was just sort of like really eye-opening to me in terms of seeing his interaction. It was just really fascinating.
It is. Do you have her? And for our listeners, this is a longer than normal interview, but we're going to go with it because this is fascinating. So you can remember, you can pause and come back. I don't know how I feel about that, right? And part is generationally. I'm 54, blah blah blah. The Gen X. I'm cynical about everything.
But this is Gen Alpha,
right? Well, that's it. So
they're one step further.
Right, they're the natives. Yeah, I get it. So I get exactly what you're saying, and I'm in my own mind as we're talking about this, I'm thinking about the idea of being goal oriented, leveraging obviously creativity, intuition, those human characteristics, that magical thing that we do of processing data together and thinking, okay, we want to get to this output. I worry about the discipline for myself of be able to think through process and kind of that critical step-by-step thinking, while owning that that's a bias, right? Of my own. So I have been reluctant to let my kids utilize AI out of the concern of kind of that cognitive laziness. Or what I would judge as cognitive laziness. But what I'm hearing from you is that's not what you're experiencing, right? Your son is, no, he is fully visualizing these outcomes and just not worried about the grunt work, so to speak.
Yeah, right? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that like it's the way I think about it is, like some of the analogies is sort of like using a calculator versus doing math manually, right? Or using a map app versus using an actual map, right? In some sense, you lose the capability. You're absolutely right. You lose the ability to do things manually, but that then unlocks the ability to do something else potentially, right? Like with a calculator, certainly. With a map app, questionable. That's probably a bad analogy. But the fact that like an 8-year-old can build really complex computer games,
that's amazing.
Right? And so yes, maybe he cannot do a waterfall planning process, but instead he can like just make it happen. And then what like the next thing that he will be able to build when he's a 9-year-old will probably be something like a 20-year-old couldn't imagine before, right? So I think that that unlock is, in my sense, in my view, is worth it to see what else is there.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I'm not judging in any way, shape, or form. There's a fascinating kind of macro conversation of that mid, right? That's what even got us here. Thinking that what is this mid? These are the types of things that we as a species and as a culture are trying to adapt to. Because and there is no avoiding them, right? This isn't something you duck. The old William Gibson quote of the future's already here. It's just not widely distributed yet. But it is getting widely distributed much faster than any other technological change we have ever experienced, in my view. So we have to deal with these things, and sometimes the answer is we don't know. We're going to have to just kind of see how it plays out. The movie WALL-E, unless you have small kids, I'm sure that you've seen WALL-E, right? So there's that fear, of like, do we really want to be just kind of the floating blobs on the?
We don't want to do that. And I think that, to me, like the big piece is around consumption versus creation. Like I want to be in the creation camp. Now I want to be creating with AI. I want to leverage all the tools. I want to be as amplified as I can be. Now I'm at Amplitude. But that's, I think that's important, not to never get sucked into consumption. And that's like that one. My view of WALL-E was that, right? Like all the humans who had like lost the ability to create and were just like sucked into consumption.
Yep.
I think that's important.
Yeah. That's a lovely way to kind of encapsulate this. So for the audience, Yana, I've never spoken before. I said beforehand it was going to be two friends, even though maybe not friends yet. We're friends now.
We're friends now.
We're friends now. Really enjoyed this conversation. Hope that we have many more in the future. But I want to be conscious of your time as well as the listeners. Cool stuff. I love people that just think, and do, and you've got both. So
thank you.
Yeah, just really appreciate that. Anything that you wanted to touch on that we did not? I know you had mentioned that there's kind of a launch coming up that may coincide with when this goes live. You want to touch on that real quick?
Yeah, so we're sprinting fast to this joint quant-qual world of marrying Craftful and inside with Amplitude inside of Amplitude. So it will be available in November for folks to try out. So if you particularly if you're an Amplitude customer, but even if you're not, you can try it out. It's on the PLG model, so we can kind of experience the world that I just described.
Okay, very cool. I encourage everybody to check it out. The anything else you want to just mention?
Yeah. I mean, I think that we've talked so much about this piece, but I do think that just like experimentation with AI is the most important thing right now. Is the like not being afraid to just try all the new things. I'm personally playing a lot with like video models and image gen models, and obviously building with large language models. But I think that like the more you can get your hands on these things, the better. The more you feel prepared for what's I was about to say what's coming, but what's going on is probably
what's here.
The better. What's here, yeah. Exactly.
The water's rising, right? Whatever analogy you want to use. It's Yana, thank you. This is really a wonderful conversation. Really appreciate it. Congrats on all the success, and can't wait to connect again as you keep pioneering all of these things. For our listeners, thank you for taking the time. This is kind of a supersized episode, but I think it was worthwhile. We covered some interesting stuff that's, I think, valuable perspective. Thanks to our producers and to our sponsors. And any final words before we sign off?
Have fun,
Okay. All right.
Do it.
There we go. Like, just do it and have fun doing it.
Just do it and have fun doing it.
And turn it up to 11. Right?
Yes, and turn it up to 11. That's right.
All right. That's it for this edition of the CEO series. Thanks a lot. Everybody take care.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.